Hello, friends, how are you? I hope you're doing great, happy, and enjoying life. Thank you so much for joining me on this journey through my real story today. It means a lot to have you here. If you enjoyed the video, please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to my channel for more amazing content. I hope you find this British tale as engaging and insightful as I've enjoyed sharing it with you. Stay tuned for more stories that bring British life, language, and culture to life. Thanks again, and welcome to Brit Tale. Enjoy the video. In early Britain, the foundation of what we recognize today as British culture was laid through a mixture of invasions, local traditions, and natural landscapes. The influence of these early societies can still be felt in every corner of modern Britain, from the structure of our government to the way we celebrate certain holidays. It's fascinating to consider how a series of historical events, like the Roman occupation and the Viking invasions, shaped the way we live now. Early Britain was not a singular entity. It was made up of a patchwork of cultures, each contributing to the identity of the nation we know today. One key element that shaped British society was the local system of tribes, each with its own customs, language, and way of life. These early communities often fought amongst themselves, but over time, they began to form alliances that paved the way for a more unified society. The Anglo-Saxons, for example, were instrumental in creating the idea of a common law system that still influences the British legal system today. This idea of communal justice, where laws were established for the good of the people and enforced by those in power, has shaped not only Britain's legal structure, but also its sense of fairness and civic responsibility. Another defining characteristic of early Britain was its agricultural society, where communities were closely tied to the land. Much of the early British economy was based on farming, and it's clear that this relationship with nature continues to be a significant part of British identity. Even today, British countryside traditions, such as the importance of seasonal foods, local markets, and agricultural festivals, reflect the deep-rooted connection to the land that began in ancient times. Then there are the cultural and social traditions that began during these early periods. The idea of monarchy, for instance, although having evolved over centuries, began in this era. The monarchy, though changing in its role, remains a symbol of continuity and national identity. The influence of Christianity, which began to take hold during the Roman and Anglo-Saxon periods, also shaped British customs, from religious holidays to societal norms surrounding charity and community. When you look at modern Britain, it's easy to forget that these roots, from the legal system to the monarchy and the importance of land, continue to impact how people live today. Even in our fast-paced world, the values and practices shaped in early Britain still hold relevance, providing a sense of continuity and tradition in the ever-evolving British society. Looking closely at the historical events in early Britain, it's clear that many of the developments during this time continue to shape the UK culture, language, and daily routines in ways we might not immediately recognize. For instance, the Roman occupation of Britain left behind a legacy of infrastructure, roads, buildings, and towns that still plays a role in the daily life of modern Britons. The Roman influence didn't just change the landscape, it also impacted language. Many of the words used in modern English, especially those related to government, military, and the calendar, are derived from Latin, the language of the Romans. This early influence contributed to the richness and adaptability of the English language, which continues to borrow from various languages, reflecting centuries of cultural interactions. The Anglo-Saxon period, following the Roman withdrawal, introduced key elements of British society that are still in place today, such as the idea of local governance. The Anglo-Saxons were among the first to establish a system of local councils, where communities had a say in decisions affecting them. This democratic idea, though it evolved, can still be seen in the local government structures we have today. Even our parliamentary system of government, which is central to the UK political identity, has its roots in the early medieval period. The Magna Carta, signed in 1215, built upon the Anglo-Saxon traditions of law and governance, ensuring that even the king was subject to the law, a concept that influences modern notions of justice and human rights. The Viking invasions, which may seem like a distant part of history, also left their mark, especially in the northern and eastern parts of Britain. Norse influences on place names, culture, and even language can still be found today. For example, many towns in the north of England carry Viking-derived names, and the Old Norse language has contributed a significant number of words to modern English. In daily routines, the Viking tradition of strong local communities has been absorbed into the fabric of British life, especially in rural areas where people still rely on close-knit networks for support. These early events have created a foundation for British society that continues to affect the way people live, communicate, and organize their lives today. The language we speak, the systems we trust, and even the rhythms of our day-to-day existence all have deep historical roots that began in early Britain and still resonate in the UK today. For intermediate learners, this story is designed to be both accessible and enriching. The language is simple enough to be understood by anyone at a B1, B2 level, yet it is filled with meaningful, impactful expressions that will help learners expand their vocabulary. This balance makes it an excellent resource for those who want to build a stronger foundation in English without feeling overwhelmed by complex structures. The beauty of this approach lies in its ability to communicate important concepts and cultural elements through straightforward language. It's not just about learning words, it's about understanding how those words are used in real life situations. What makes this story even more beneficial is the combination of the British accent and the use of subtitles. For learners, hearing a native accent while being able to read the words as they go along is invaluable. The British accent provides authentic exposure to the sounds, intonation, and rhythm of the language, helping to train the ear to pick up on subtle details that might otherwise be missed. This is especially important in English, where pronunciation can vary greatly, and understanding the natural flow of speech is crucial for building confidence in listening and speaking. The subtitles are a great tool for reinforcing comprehension, allowing learners to connect the sounds they hear with the written words. This makes it easier to follow along, pick up new phrases, and solidify their understanding. The context-rich setting of the story further enhances this learning process. By immersing learners in a narrative that reflects real British life, the language used feels natural and relatable. It's one thing to study vocabulary in isolation, but when that vocabulary is placed within a story, learners can see how it fits into a larger context, how it shapes the narrative, influences characters, and drives the plot. This approach makes the learning experience more engaging and memorable. By the end of the story, learners are not just able to repeat phrases. They've absorbed them in a way that connects with the world around them. This method of learning, where language is intertwined with culture, makes it easier to retain and apply new knowledge in real-life conversations. The combination of language, accent, and context is the perfect recipe for effective language acquisition. Subtitles play a crucial role in enhancing comprehension, especially for language learners who are trying to master listening skills. When learners listen to a native British accent, it can sometimes be difficult to catch every word, especially with the nuances of pronunciation and the flow of speech. Subtitles provide a safety net, allowing learners to see the words they're hearing in real time, which helps them to better connect the spoken word with the written form. This is particularly helpful when dealing with idiomatic phrases or words that may not be immediately clear from context alone. The beauty of subtitles is that they not only reinforce what's being said, but also give learners a deeper understanding of the language. By reading along as they listen, learners are exposed to how words are typically used in sentences, how sentences are structured, and how punctuation can affect the meaning of a phrase. This exposure helps solidify vocabulary retention. Learners aren't just memorizing words in isolation. They're seeing them in context, which helps them remember them better and understand their real-world application. Another advantage of subtitles is that they give learners the opportunity to notice the subtle differences in pronunciation and intonation that make British English unique. For example, a word like schedule might be pronounced differently in American English versus British English, and subtitles allow learners to recognize these distinctions. It's these little nuances that can make a huge difference in how well learners understand and speak the language. Being able to match what they hear with what they read helps learners internalize these variations more easily. Subtitles also help learners to build confidence. It's one thing to understand basic vocabulary or grammar rules, but being able to follow along with a native accent and understand the full meaning of a conversation is an entirely different skill. Subtitles guide learners through the process, enabling them to focus on understanding the bigger picture rather than getting stuck on individual words. They can then revisit challenging sections, replay them if needed, and gradually improve their listening skills over time. Ultimately, subtitles create an immersive learning experience that strengthens both vocabulary retention and the understanding of the subtleties of the language. It's not just about hearing the words, but understanding their deeper meanings and how they interact within a conversation. Using stories to illustrate British life is one of the most effective ways to make language learning both engaging and relatable. Stories have a unique power to bring the culture and traditions of any place to life, and when it comes to learning English, they provide an immersive experience that textbooks alone simply cannot offer. In the case of British life, a story allows learners to see, hear, and feel what it might be like to live in the UK, whether that's through the quaint rituals of afternoon tea or the vibrant energy of a busy London street. These stories provide more than just vocabulary. They provide context, rich with the social norms, values, and behaviors that make the UK so distinctive. When learners are exposed to these stories, they're not just memorizing random words. They're understanding how language functions in the real world, how people use it to communicate, share their experiences, and express their identity. Through the context of a story, learners can see how phrases and expressions take on deeper meanings. For example, learning about British customs or holidays like Christmas or bonfire night, in the context of a well-told story, gives learners a richer understanding of not only the language but also the cultural significance behind those words and phrases. The visuals accompanying these stories help to bring the setting to life, which in turn makes the language more accessible. When learners see scenes of early Britain, the bustling markets, the quiet countryside, or the majestic castles, they can connect the language to the environment in which it was spoken. It creates a deeper connection to the words, helping them remember the vocabulary more easily. It's one thing to learn the word castle, but it's another thing entirely to see a beautiful, towering structure in the story and hear its description in context. That connection solidifies both the word and the image in the learner's mind. Stories also offer learners a chance to experience the flow of conversation in a natural setting. This is crucial for language learners because it teaches them how to engage in everyday interactions, from greetings and introductions to more complex dialogues. By seeing the characters in a story navigate these moments, learners can pick up on the subtleties of tone, politeness, and social cues that are so important in real-life communication. In essence, learning through stories doesn't just teach you the language. it teaches you about the culture, the people, and the lifestyle that the language comes from, making the whole process enjoyable and memorable. Exposure to a native British accent is one of the most valuable tools for improving both listening and speaking skills. The British accent, with its unique intonation and rhythm, offers learners the opportunity to hear how English sounds in its most natural form. Intonation, the rise and fall of the voice, plays a huge role in communication, not just in English, but in any language. It's the subtle rise in pitch that signals a question, or the drop in tone that conveys certainty or finality. For learners, hearing these patterns in a real, flowing conversation helps them understand the emotional tone behind the words. It's something you can't always grasp from just reading or hearing a textbook example. Pronunciation is another area where the British accent really stands out. English, as spoken in Britain, has some distinctive sounds that learners need to familiarize themselves with, especially the vowels and certain consonants. For instance, the sound of the letter R can vary greatly depending on the accent, and learning to distinguish between these subtle differences can have a major impact on how well learners are understood. By hearing a native speaker, learners begin to pick up on these nuances, understanding not just how words are pronounced, but also how stress and emphasis on syllables can change their meaning or impact in conversation. Beyond pronunciation, speech patterns are also vital in mastering a language. The British accent often includes a specific rhythm or cadence that can be tricky for learners to imitate at first. But exposure to it, especially through continuous listening, helps learners develop an ear for these speech patterns. Over time, learners begin to grasp how native speakers naturally link words together, how they pause for effect, or how they shorten certain words in everyday speech. This makes it easier for learners to understand fast-paced conversations, which can often be a challenge for beginners or intermediate learners. All of this contributes to a significant boost in confidence. When learners are exposed to the British accent in various contexts, whether in stories, films, or conversations, they begin to feel more comfortable with the sound of the language. This builds confidence in their ability to both understand and participate in conversations. The more they hear and mimic the accent, the more they internalize these patterns, and soon they find themselves speaking with greater fluency and ease. Confidence, after all, is key in language learning, and exposure to native accents is one of the most effective ways to achieve it. Goodbye, friends. I hope you enjoyed today's story and found it both fun and insightful. Learning about British life, language, and culture through stories really helps us connect with the essence of the UK. Remember, practice makes perfect, so keep listening, speaking, and exploring new ways to improve your English. Thank you for watching, and if you haven't already, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to stay updated on all the latest content. I appreciate you joining me, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Until then, take care and keep enjoying your language journey.